The sun hung like a harsh, amber torch over the sprawling alien city, its blaze scorching the stone walkways below. Under patched canopies and torn banners lay a place darker than midnight, the slave market. This was no bazaar of silks or spices. It was a holding ground for living souls. Cells and cages lined the dusty alleys. Chains clinked with a rhythm of despair. Muffled sobs mingled with bitter insults and the muttered shame of the captives. Crowds drifted among the pens, buyers with slit pupils, scaled skin, or many arms. Heavy purse strings in hand, cold curiosity in their eyes. They paused before cages of bulk and muscle, evaluating who might endure the mines, who might bend to servitude. Some were young and celebrated for beauty, others strong and rugged for labor. Merchants roared over the din, touting strength, youth, obedience. This one's for your fields, this one for your halls. And then, amid the worst of a lot, was one cell that no one touched. Within it huddled a girl, Lyris, fragile, nearly forgotten. Her skin was moonlight pale, marred by bruises and scars. Heavy iron cuffs bit in her wrists. What once had been hair bright as dawn was now matted and dull, falling in strands over a face too young to wear so much pain. Her eyes glowed faintly, a dim ember behind lashes dusted with dirt. She kept her chin tucked, as if shame itself weighed on her neck. Good for nothing, one merchant spat, staring in. She can't haul, can't charm. A waste of credits, said another with a mocking grin. Even when curious hands pressed questions, the men waved dismissively. Let her perish. No strength, no will. Not worth the chains. Lyris heard every insult. Her heart ached, yet she offered no tears. Long ago, cruelty had drained them dry. She once dreamed of open skies, of her mother's laughter, of fields that smelled of wildflowers. Now dreams were ash, memories only ghosts. All she knew these days was the rattle of iron and the bitter stink of the market. She sat, waiting for the moment she'd be cast aside completely. The market's heat felt suffocating as the hours dragged on. Voices dampened, shadows lengthened. Merchants barked louder, desperate to move what stock remained. Chains shook, crowds' murmurs turned into hungry bargaining. But still no one claimed Lyris. Then he came, not like the others. He was named Corin. His skin was unrest by blue or jade or scale. He was human, sun-bronzed, and weathered from long travel. Leather boots cracked, cloak stained with dust of far roads. His eyes, though, were sharp, bright, alert, searching, not with greed, but something else. As Corin walked past the cages, the slaves lifted hollow stares. Some begged silently. Others glared in defiance. Many simply could not look. Merchants hustled at his heels, shouting out the finest stock, muscle, beauty, obedience. Here, a prize worth your coin. Corin ignored them all until he stopped in front of Lyris's cage. She barely lifted her head. Their eyes met, and something shifted. Time seemed to still around them. A longing, a spark neither expected. A merchant snorted. That one, she won't last nightfall. You throw credits away on the dead. Another jeered. She's frail, useless. Save yourself the trouble. Corin did not speak until he had studied her. Her hollow cheeks, the bruises, the droop of despair. Then he said, voice steady and resolute, I will claim her. Silence swallowed his words. The crowd gaped. Merchants sputtered, stunned into cursing. You are mad, one cried. A fool, another. Lyris felt something stir inside her. Hope, shock, fear, all at once. Corin did not waver. I said, I will claim her. Greed reawakened in the lead merchant's eyes. If you insist, human, she is yours at full price. No haggling. She breaks like porcelain, eats like a burden. You pay double. Corin nodded. He pulled from his satchel clinking coins, hard-earned, precious, and placed them before the merchant. The market held its breath. Gasps flew. Whispers. Why her? Why waste on this castaway? The merchant counted. Finally. Very well. With a sharp snap of fingers, the guards opened Lyris's cage. They dragged her out. Her knees buckled. The chains clattered. She braced for a blow, for a command, for cruelty, anything. But Corin caught her before she fell. His hands were steady, firm but gentle. And in that touch, she felt something she barely remembered: kindness. The merchant grinned greedily. "She'll be dust before moonrise, human. Remember that." Corin only gazed at Lyris. Without a word, he broke the shackles at her wrists. The iron snapped, fell away. Lyris stared at the scars, sharp, red, raw. The pain was new in a different way. Wonder, disbelief. She could not speak past the lump in her throat. "You are free now," Corin said softly. Her voice cracked. Why me? Because no one else would. Her heart trembled. She had believed their words. Useless, broken, worthless. But in Corin's eyes, she saw a truth. A truth she had forgotten existed. Together, they stepped out of the chaos of the market. Behind them, cages, shouts, laughter, cruelty. Before them, open roads, uncertain but theirs. She limped alongside him, her feet raw. Each step was agony, but each step carried something else, possibility. Corin offered water. She hesitated, haunted by memory. Then she drank. Sweet relief. Bread followed. Gentle gestures she had forgotten meant caring. Night fell, sky full of indifferent stars. Corin draped his cloak around her shoulders. She shivered, not just from cold, but from hope. On the fringe of the city, they made camp. Flames flickered, shadows danced. Lyris lay beside the fire, cloak wrapped tight. "Why didn't you leave me?" she asked, voice small. Corin stared into flames, then at her. "Because I couldn't. You were there. No one wanted you. I saw you." Her breath caught. Chains of fear and disbelief still bound her soul, even though the metal was gone. Could she believe she was more than the trash others saw? Could she believe in a life beyond suffering? That night she did not sleep in a cell. That night she lay under the open sky, beside someone who claimed her, not as a slave, but as human. And though danger lurked in the shadows, Marcus, the market masters, plots and watchers, the road ahead uncertain, something new grew inside her: hope. The fire had burned down to glowing embers, barely keeping the desert night's chill at bay. Lyris sat upright, wrapped tightly in Corin's cloak. Sleep wouldn't come, not with the invisible thread of tension pulled taut through her spine. Corin lay nearby, one eye half open. He didn't truly sleep. He was listening, waiting. Then came a sound. Something slid across rock. Subtle, predatory. Lyris froze. Her ears twitched. Between the rocks, she caught a flicker of steel. A silhouette, tall, spined, hunched, moved in the shadows. "They're here," she whispered. Corin rose in one fluid motion. No panic, only precision. He unsheathed his knife in silence, eyes scanning the dark. "How many?" "I saw one, maybe two, maybe more." A sharp whistle cut through the air. "Down!" Corin yanked her behind a boulder just as a tranquilizer dart struck the ground where she had been sitting. "They want you back alive," he said. "Not just me," Lyris murmured. "They kill anyone who frees a slave. They call it property theft." Corin pulled a small metal cylinder from his satchel. "Then we steal our way out." He tapped the device. It hissed, then exploded in a thick burst of blue-gray smoke. Shouts rang out in alien tongues. Confusion. Orders. Panic. Corin gripped Lyris's hand. "Run!" They dashed, stumbling over jagged stone, into the wide, open sand valley. Night cloaked them, but the hunters knew the land. Harsh beams of searchlights swept across the terrain behind them. There, someone screamed. A pulse shot struck the sand at Lyris's feet, blasting dust into the air. She stumbled, fell. Her knee cracked hard against a rock. "Leave me," she gasped. "I'm slowing you down." "Quiet," Corin growled, lifting her easily. He carried her as footsteps thundered behind them. The hum of aerial drones joined the chase, eyes in the sky. "They're using air scouts," she warned. "I know," he said calmly. He set her down behind a sand pillar and pulled a disc from his belt. With a press, the device pulsed once, then again. The drones jerked mid-air, sensors scrambled by the signal. "We've got 10 seconds, Corin said. "Maybe 15. They ran again. Faster. Across the valley, to a ridge that opened into a massive ravine below. We're jumping, Corin said. She looked down. We'll die. Trust me. He gripped her hand. 1 step. 2. Leap. They fell, wind rushing past her ears. Then snapped, a wing unfolded from Corin's backpack. A collapsible glider. Metal stretched wide like the wings of a giant bird, catching the air just in time. They soared over the canyon, past the reach of their pursuers. Lyris clung to him, heart pounding in her chest, lungs aching from adrenaline. She wanted to scream, to laugh, to cry, but she stayed silent. They landed hard in the shadow of ancient ruins, crumbling stone walls lost to time. Corin set her down gently. I thought we were going to die, she whispered. He gave her a tired smile. I thought so too, but you're still breathing. And from now on, you stay that way. She looked down at her hands, trembling. They won't stop coming. Let them come, Corin said, checking his blade. But next time we fight back. Hidden beneath the sands, far from the shouting of the slave market, something changed inside her. Lyris wasn't just surviving anymore. She was beginning to believe. Maybe not in safety, but in the possibility of resistance. She was no longer waiting for rescue. She was walking beside it, and deep in the shadows beyond the ruins, they were still being watched. The ruins were silent. Ancient stone bones buried in sand and shadow. Carvings lined the cracked walls in a language Lyris couldn't read, but something about them made her skin tingle. Corin checked the perimeter, knife drawn. We can rest here until sunrise, he said. They won't risk the old places. Lyris leaned against a cold pillar. Her body still ached. Her wrists, freed but raw, throbbed with each heartbeat. The fire from the market still echoed in her chest, a blend of fear and confusion and something else. Something new. Why don't they come here? She asked. Corin looked at her, his expression unreadable. They say these ruins are cursed. Tech too old. Energy that corrupts. The locals stay away. Do you believe that? He shrugged. I believe in avoiding what draws more trouble than it's worth. Lyris traced her fingers over a stone symbol. 3 interlocking circles glowing faintly. Her skin sparked on contact. She yanked her hand back. Corin noticed. What happened? I don't know. It was warm. She reached out again. This time, the symbol lit up. A low hum filled the chamber. Stone shifted beneath them. Lyris, step back, Corin said quickly, pulling her behind him. But the ruin wasn't collapsing. It was awakening. A hidden door slid open, revealing a spiraling staircase of light. Strange glyphs pulsed on the walls. Air rushed out like a breath held for 1,000 years. I think it's responding to you, Corin said quietly. Why me? She asked, heart racing. Let's find out. They descended into the hidden chamber. The deeper they went, the warmer it grew. Not from heat, but from energy. The chamber below was vast. At its center stood a floating sphere of light, rotating slowly. Around it, alien relics hovered, metal shards, glowing runes, symbols dancing in the air. Lyris took a step closer. The sphere pulsed. Then, a blinding flash. Suddenly, memories not her own flooded her mind. Visions. Fire. War. A species running. A girl, one like her, standing before the same sphere. Arms raised. Eyes glowing brighter than any star. Lyris screamed. The vision stopped. Corin grabbed her. What happened? I saw something. A girl like me. She wasn't a slave. She was a weapon. A protector. Her power came from this place. This is a vault of the Vehlari. Corin blinked. The Vehlari are extinct. She wasn't, Lyris said. She's me. Silence. Then the sphere turned red. Warning. Energy surged across the room. The walls began to tremble. The vault was no longer quiet. It was waking up fully. Outside, the earth shook. Above, in the sand valley, the market's hunters were back. Armed with shock spears and tranquilizers, they crept through the sand, following tracks. One of them raised a communicator. Confirmed. She's in the ruins. With a human. The voice on the other end replied coldly. Eliminate the human. Bring the girl back, intact. The hunters advanced. Back in the chamber, Lyris stood before the sphere. Her eyes glowed brighter now, no longer dim, but alive. The sphere hovered lower, responding to her presence. "It's binding to you," Corin said. "You're linked. I don't know how. I don't know what to do. You don't have to know. Just feel." She closed her eyes. The sphere split open. From inside, a ribbon of energy flowed into her hands. Not burning, but familiar, as if it had always belonged to her. She gasped as it surged through her veins. Her scars glowed. Her voice echoed, not in words but in power. The hunters breached the ruined entrance. Corin readied his blade. "Stay behind me." But Lyris stepped forward. "No," she said. Her voice was calm, clear, strong. She raised her hand. A wave of light exploded from her palm. Not heat, but force. Invisible but unstoppable. It hit the hunters like a wall. They flew backward, weapons scattering, landing in the sand unconscious or dazed. Silence followed. Corin turned to her, stunned. What did you just do?" Lyris was shaking. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Not from fear, but from release. From power reclaimed. "I don't know what it is, but I'm not useless. Not anymore. Once a girl no one wanted. Beaten. Forgotten. Sold like property. But now, something ancient has awakened in her blood. And those who once called her worthless? They're about to learn what a Vehlari heir really is." The slave market thought they sold a broken girl. They released a force they couldn't begin to understand. And this was only the beginning. Dust hung in the air like a shroud, stirred only by Lyris's trembling breath. Her arms still glowed, faintly, energy threads pulsing beneath her skin like veins of light. She stood motionless, staring at the unconscious hunters sprawled across the sand outside the ruins. Corin stepped beside her, watching her carefully, his voice low. "You didn't just push them back. You could have killed them." "I didn't mean to," she whispered. "I didn't even know I could." "But you did," he said. "And now they know too." She looked down at her hands, still glowing. "What am I becoming?" He answered without hesitation. "Something they're afraid of." Inside the chamber, the floating sphere of the Vehlari pulsed again, slower now like it was resting. Its core dimmed, and the runes on the walls faded. Whatever it had given her, it had given freely, and it had changed her. Corin gathered his things quickly. "We have to move. They'll send more. Stronger ones." Lyris turned toward the open desert. "Where do we go?" "To someone who might understand what you are." He glanced back toward the horizon. "A place called Harrow's Reach. If anyone knows the truth behind Vehlari bloodlines, it's the exiles who live there." As they prepared to leave, Lyris knelt by one of the fallen hunters. His armor was marked with a red insignia, 3 spines across a black circle. Her breath caught. She recognized it. "I've seen this before," she said, fingers tracing the emblem. "The day they took me. One of the slavers wore this." Corin tensed. "You remember? They weren't random traitors. They were sent, targeting children like me." "Which means," Corin said darkly, "you weren't just stolen. You were selected." They moved fast, crossing dunes under the cover of dusk. The heat faded, replaced by the chill of night wind. Stars wheeled overhead. Lyris walked without chains now, but every step was heavy with questions. Her mind burned with visions from the vault. The girl in the light. The war. The scream of ships falling from the sky. At a jagged cliff overlooking the fractured plains, Corin signaled to stop. "There," he pointed. "Harrow's Reach. It's hidden beneath those rocks. Underground." But before they could descend, a sound stopped them cold. Engines. Multiple. A fleet of black skycraft tore through the clouds, searchlights sweeping the terrain. Behind them, marching soldiers in bone-white armor, walking with precision, holding rifles designed for containment. Lyris gasped. "They're already here." Corin swore. "They move faster than I thought. Someone's tipped them off." From the cliffs, they watched as the soldiers surrounded a settlement hidden in the rocks. Screams echoed. Lights flared. Someone fired back and was immediately silenced. Smoke began to rise. "We have to help them," Lyris said. "We can't take them head on. Not like this." "I can try," she began. No, Corin grabbed her arm, firm but not cruel. "You just got this power. You don't know what it can do, or what it'll take from you. Tears stung her eyes. Then what? We watched them burn. Corin didn't answer. But then Lyris stepped forward, her eyes glowing faintly again. They want me, not them. Let me draw them away. That's suicide. Maybe, she said. But if I was meant to be a weapon, then I'll choose what I protect. Before he could stop her, she climbed the ridge and stepped into the open. The soldiers saw her immediately. There, someone shouted. Target acquired. Dozens of rifles aimed. She raised her hand slowly. And then she knelt. Corin swore again and raced down another path, circling behind the soldiers as they moved toward her. But as they approached, something happened. The light in her chest flared. One soldier shouted, "She's charging." No, wait. The ground exploded beneath their feet, not in fire, but in pure gravitational force. The soldiers were lifted from the earth, suspended midair like puppets caught in invisible strings. Their screams twisted in the wind. Corin reached her side just in time to see her collapse, smoke rising from her shoulders. Lyris! He caught her as she fell. Her skin was hot to the touch, her breath shallow, but her lips moved. I held it back, didn't want to kill them. You did more than that, he said, lifting her into his arms. You gave us a chance. Behind them, the survivors from Harrow's Reach emerged, eyes wide. One of them, a tall woman with cybernetic arms, stepped forward slowly. She has Vehlari blood, the woman said. Corin nodded. And they're coming for her. Then we'll stand with her. Because if the galaxy knew what they were doing to girls like her. She looked out over the broken field, where black ships still burned. They'd tear the system apart. As Lyris rested in Corin's arms, unconscious but alive, the stars above seemed to burn just a little brighter. She had been sold, forgotten, marked as worthless. But now, she was becoming something else entirely. And every empire that once ignored her would soon learn her name. Lyris awoke to the scent of burning metal and the soft hum of machines. Her body ached, her head pounded, but she was alive. Wrapped in a woven blanket, she lay on a cot inside what looked like an underground chamber, lit by old fusion lights and lined with relics of forgotten wars. She sat up slowly. The glow in her hands had faded, but she could still feel the power there. Dormant. Waiting. Corin entered, bruised but alive. You're awake. She nodded, voice hoarse. How long? 2 days. You nearly burned yourself out. She looked down at her hands. I didn't mean to do it. I just wanted them to stop. You did what they couldn't. You saved lives. Again. He sat beside her. But there's something you need to know. He gestured to the doorway. The tall woman with the cybernetic arms stepped in. Her name was Lyra, leader of the exiles. Behind her, several of the Harrow's Reach survivors stood watchfully. You used Vehlari energy, Lyra said. That makes you a target, but it also makes you valuable. I don't want to be valuable, Lyra said. I want to be free. Lyra gave a sad smile. In this galaxy, power and freedom don't often walk the same road. Corin crossed his arms. We need answers. Why was she taken? Why her blood? Lyra hesitated, then motioned them to follow. She led them into a hidden chamber, deeper underground, walls lined with alien script, a glowing map of the stars on the ceiling. In the center stood a suspended hologram of a girl. Not Lyris, but another Vehlari. She looked just like her. This is Sarah, Lyris said. She was the last known flame-born, Vehlari-born with the ability to control energy fields. Lyris stared. She was in my visions. She wasn't just a warrior, Lyra continued. She was a key. The Vehlari hid something the empires never found. A failsafe. And it was said only a flame-born could unlock it. Corin's voice was tight. So the slavers weren't hunting at random. They were looking for the next one. Lyra nodded. And now they think they've found her. Lyris backed away. I'm not her. I don't want to be some prophecy. Lyra stepped closer. You don't have to be, but you should understand what's at stake. Suddenly, the lights flickered. A warning siren echoed through the corridors. Corin reached for his weapon. What now? Lyra's communicator lit up. It's not them. It's internal. From above, a boom shook the structure. The guard screamed. Energy blasts echoed through the tunnels. "They're inside," someone shouted. Lyris ran toward the corridor, despite Corin yelling for her to stop. Smoke filled the halls. She turned a corner and stopped. One of the exiles stood over a fallen guard, holding a plasma rifle. "Why?" she gasped. The man turned, his face familiar. One of the quiet ones from the edge of the crowd. The one who hadn't spoken much. "I'm sorry, Lyris," he said. "Truly. But I needed them to find you." Behind him, figures stepped through the smoke. Soldiers in black armor. Mark enforcers. Corin tackled the man, driving him into the wall. Blaster fire erupted. Chaos. Lyris screamed as hands grabbed her. But this time, something had changed. She didn't collapse. She didn't freeze. Her eyes flared. Her body ignited. And with a scream that cracked the air itself, she unleashed the storm. Walls shattered. Stone melted. Her body lifted into the air, burning with Vehlari energy. Not wild, not broken, but controlled. When the light faded, the attackers lay unconscious. The traitor among the exiles crawled away, terrified. "You don't understand," he coughed. "They offer me freedom. So, they could enslave me again?" Her voice was ice. She turned away. Corin caught up, his face bloodied but unbroken. "You all right?" "I'm done running," she said. "And I'm done waiting for someone else to protect me." Behind them, Elira limped into view, coughing. "They'll keep coming." "Then let them come," Lyris said. "I think it's time we stop hiding," Corin added. "It's time the galaxy knows she's not some slave girl anymore." And as they walked toward the surface, through the smoke and shattered stone, the stars above welcomed a new kind of fire. Not of destruction, but of rebellion. Because what no one wanted was about to change everything. The smoke from the battle at Harrow's Reach still lingered in the valley, like the memory of a nightmare. The ruins smoldered. Bodies, both enemy and ally, lay in silence. But in the heart of the destruction, something had begun to stir. Not fear, not grief, rebellion. Lyris stood atop the crumbled archway of the old ruin, eyes fixed on the horizon. Her hands glowed faintly, responding to the ancient power that now lived inside her. Corin stood at her side, blood dried on his collar, his blade still sheathed but never far. They had sent hunters. They had sent ships. They had sent betrayal. And still, she was standing. The surviving exiles, those who hadn't turned, gathered below. Elira, battered but still commanding, stepped forward. "There's chatter across the slave channels," she said. "Word of what happened here is spreading. Other camps, other markets, they're listening." Lyris turned to her. "Are there others like me?" Elira nodded. "Children taken from fringe worlds. Vehlari blood tested. Those who glowed were sold in secret to the highest bidders. The rest discarded." Lyris felt the weight of it. 1,000 stolen children. 1,000 broken cages. Her fists clenched. "Then we don't wait for them to come again," she said. "We hit them first." Corin looked at her, surprised. "You're ready?" "No," she said, "but I'm not afraid anymore." The plan came together quickly. The first target was small, a slave transfer station hidden beneath the dunes of Ragan's Belt. It wasn't guarded like the cities, too remote, but it held over 50 children, all waiting to be shipped off-world by week's end. They left at dusk, traveling light. Lyris, Corin, Elira, and 5 trusted fighters. They wore the armor of the market's soldiers they defeated. The disguise would buy them minutes. No more. When they arrived, the facility was quiet. A sunken structure, barely visible beneath the sand. Drones circled lazily above. They moved fast. Elira jammed the perimeter sensors. Corin took out the exterior guards with precision. Lyris stood in the control chamber, heart pounding as she touched the security console. Energy moved through her fingers. The system recognized her power and submitted. Doors unlocked. Cells opened. And for the first time, the silence of the prison was broken by the voices of children whispering, "Are we free?" One little girl stepped forward. Her eyes wide, ears large like Lyris's. She wore a collar too tight for her thin neck. "Who are you?" she asked. Lyris knelt and took the girl's hand gently. "Someone they said was useless. Like you." But they were wrong. The girl looked up. "Will they hurt us?" Lyris smiled, not kindly but fiercely. Not anymore. The alarm sounded. Minutes had passed. Too many. The enemy came from above. Dropships. Reinforcements. Panic broke out. But Lyris didn't run. She turned to the children. Get to the tunnels. Follow Alira. She'll lead you out. What about you? The little girl asked. I'm going to buy you time. As the first soldiers stormed the chamber, Lyris raised her hand. A shield of energy erupted, crackling, humming with Vehlari light. Blaster bolts hit it and vanished. She stepped forward, eyes burning. Corin fought at her side, blade flashing. The exiles flanked the hallways, covering the retreat. And when the last child vanished into the tunnels, Lyris let the shield drop and unleashed the storm again. She didn't just defend. She destroyed. She moved like wind and fire, energy arcing from her palms, shattering weapons, knocking soldiers into walls. The power was no longer something she feared. It was part of her. It was her. By the time the smoke cleared, the floor was littered with unconscious guards. The facility's control center burned behind her. Corin limped into view, panting. They'll come again. Lyris looked up. Then we burn every cage before they do. That night, they returned to Harrow's Reach with 50 freed children, their eyes wide, their voices quiet, but alive. Word spread faster than fire. Across planets. Across systems. A name once spoken only in disgust at a market, now echoed in fear inside council rooms and military bunkers. Lyris. The girl no one wanted had become the flame they couldn't put out. And this was only the first rebellion. The rebellion was no longer a whisper. It had become a roar. Across the outer sectors, slave markets fell one by one. Wherever Lyris walked, cages cracked open, collars snapped, and soldiers either fled or surrendered. But with every victory came new eyes, watching, calculating, waiting. Inside the war room beneath Harrow's Reach, Corin studied a flickering hologram of the galaxy. Red markers blinked with every enemy stronghold still standing. Blue markers, few but growing, signaled rebel-controlled zones. We freed 7 stations in 2 weeks, Alira said. But now the markets are retaliating. They're deploying orbital enforcers. Warships. Entire fleets. We're winning faster than they expected, Corin muttered. It scares them. Lyris stood silent in the corner. Her hair, once tangled and lifeless, now glimmered with soft starlight. Her movements were steady, but her eyes held the weight of too many memories. Every child she freed, every one that reminded her of herself, they carved a deeper fire into her soul. And yet, the visions had returned, not of war, but of a door, a chamber sealed by ancient power, and a voice calling from behind it, not in words, but in blood. I need to go to the archive, she said suddenly. Alira turned. That's suicide. It's deep in the core territories, controlled by the High Sovereigns. Fortified. I saw it, Lyris said. It's where the Vehlari hid their truth. I think it's where I was born. Corin hesitated. Are you sure? She met his eyes. No, but I have to go. They left the next night in a stolen stealth vessel. Lyris, Corin, and a small team of trusted fighters. It took them 3 days to reach the core, dodging patrols, slicing through restricted space. The archive floated in orbit above a dead planet, a massive sphere of black stone wrapped in energy shields. No one entered without sovereign permission, but Lyris didn't ask. As their ship approached, the shields flickered, then dropped. The others stared in shock. It recognized you, Corin said. I told you, Lyris replied. It's calling me. Inside, the archive was silent. No guards, no alarms, just endless corridors of stone and starlight. Then they found the vault, a great door, covered in symbols that shimmered with the same energy flowing through Lyris's veins. She stepped forward, and the door opened. Inside was a chamber of memory. Holographic figures came to life, tall, luminous, their features unmistakably Vehlari. They spoke in echoes, their words old but translated through the air. If you are watching this, the figure said, then the Vehlari are gone. But our legacy lives in you, Flameborn. You are the last. The team held their breath. The markets were no accident, the voice continued. They were made by us. In desperation, we try to survive extinction by embedding our blood into other species, hiding it in children. But others corrupted the plan. The scene shifted, showing labs, children in cages, scientists with market insignias. Lyris's heart pounded. They didn't want peace, the figure said. They wanted weapons. And so, they began to harvest us. The chamber darkened. A single stasis pod rose from the center of the floor. Lyris stepped forward. The glass hissed open. Inside was a body. A girl. Just like her. Same ears. Same glow. But older. Her features frozen in suspended life. Elira gasped. Is that you? Lyris stared at the face she'd never seen, but always felt. No, she whispered. It's my sister. Corin blinked. You have a sister? The hologram lit up again. She was the firstborn of our line, the voice said. But too powerful. Too unstable. She was locked away to protect the galaxy. But her mind still lives, watching, waiting. She knows you've come. The lights flickered. The pod began to hum. Corin reached for his weapon. Lyris, we need to go. Lyris didn't move. Her glowing hand touched the glass. The girl's eyes opened. Not slowly. Instantly. And they were already glowing brighter than Lyris's. The pod hissed. Metal twisted. She sat up and smiled. Little sister, she said. You woke me. Now let's burn them all. Lyris stumbled back, breath caught in her throat. The chamber doors slammed shut. And in that moment, she realized she wasn't the weapon. Her sister was.